Ambassador Park Ji-hoon stood in the massive council chamber, floating in space between distant stars. Around him sat representatives from 847 different alien species. The room buzzed with strange sounds as hundreds of creatures spoke at once. He had been listening to their demands for 3 hours now. His hands were clenched behind his back, hidden from view. The translator device in his ear converted the alien languages into words he could understand. Humanity must reduce its military fleet by 40%, announced the council chairman, a tall being covered in gray skin. This is not negotiable. Ji-hoon said nothing. He simply watched. Furthermore, the chairman continued, all human colonies in the disputed zones must be relocated. Earth will fund this relocation. Human voting rights in this council are suspended indefinitely. And finally, humanity must undergo cultural rehabilitation to remove aggressive behavioral patterns. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Some species nodded their approval. Others remained silent but did not object. Ji-hoon thought about Dr. Kim Saman. 20 years ago, she had discovered a way to regenerate dying cells. She could have kept it secret, made Earth wealthy beyond measure. Instead, she had shared it freely with the galaxy. Millions of aliens lived longer because of her gift. He thought about Commander Lee Taeyang. 5 years ago, Lee had died defending a colony that was not even human. He had given his life protecting the Corvani people from raiders. The Corvani representative sat 3 rows away, saying nothing in humanity's defense. He thought about the Pelgash famine. Earth had sent food for 2 years, draining its own reserves, asking nothing in return. The Pelgash delegate now voted to strip Earth of its rights. Ambassador Ji-hoon, the chairman said, does Earth accept these terms? Ji-hoon reached into his jacket. Every guard in the room tensed. He pulled out a small data chip and held it up. This contains Earth's official response, he said quietly. The chairman gestured, and the chip's data appeared on the massive screens around the chamber. The words were simple: withdrawal notice, effective immediately. Ji-hoon began to speak. His voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the vast room. For 40 years humanity has served this council. We shared our medical technology freely. We defended worlds that were not our own. We fed the hungry. We asked only to be treated as equals. He looked around the chamber slowly. Instead, you have treated us as servants. As weapons you could aim at your enemies. As a resource to be exploited. You feared our strength but demanded we use it for you. You envied our progress but demanded we slow down to your pace. The chairman tried to interrupt, but Ji-hoon raised his hand. I am not finished. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. Our embassies close in 30 days. Every treaty signed under Council authority is now void. Our military fleets will leave all Council-affiliated systems within 60 days. Chaos erupted. Aliens shouted in hundreds of languages. Some stood from their seats. Others activated communication devices frantically. You cannot do this, the chairman roared. You have obligations. Responsibilities. Ji-hoon smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We fulfilled our obligations every single day for 40 years. We bled for you. We sacrificed for you. You have shown us that loyalty means nothing here. Respect means nothing. We are done. He turned his back on the entire council, a gesture considered deeply insulting in galactic culture, and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the chairman was shouting. Representatives were screaming. Alarms were sounding. Ji-hoon did not look back. In orbit above the council station, Admiral Choi Yuna received the coded signal on her command ship. She looked at her fleet of 300 warships spread across the viewing screen. All human vessels, she announced over the fleet channel. Begin immediate withdrawal. Set course for Earth. We are going home. Across 12 sectors of space, human ships turned away from their posts. Defense stations went silent. Patrol routes were abandoned. Within 6 hours, the first ships entered faster-than-light travel. The galaxy suddenly felt much darker and much more dangerous. 3 weeks had passed since humanity left the council. In the medical district of the planet Velcaris, Dr. Talven stared at the empty vial in his hands. It was the last dose of human regeneration medicine. His patient, a child dying of cellular decay, had maybe 2 days left. There must be more, he whispered. Contact the human embassy. His assistant looked down. The embassy closed 2 weeks ago. All humans are gone. Talven felt his heart sink. He had never thanked the humans. He had never even spoken to Dr. Kim Saman, the woman who created this miracle. He had simply expected the medicine to always be there. Now a child would die because of his assumptions. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Hospitals ran out of human medicines. The aliens had never learned to make it themselves. Why would they? The humans always provided it for free. In the Zentari sector, pirates attacked a trading convoy. It was a small raid, nothing unusual. Except this time, no human patrol ships appeared. The pirates destroyed 3 vessels and took whatever they wanted. Captain Brecknor, a council defense officer, arrived 6 hours too late. His ships were slow, his weapons outdated. The pirates escaped easily. "Where are the human ships?" his crew asked. Brecknor had no answer. For 15 years, human vessels had kept these space lanes safe. The council had never needed to maintain strong defenses. The humans did that job. Now the humans were gone and the pirates knew it. Within 1 week, 12 more convoys were attacked. Within 2 weeks, entire trade routes shut down. Merchants refused to travel without protection. On the agricultural world of Nesprum, the automated farming systems began to fail. The technology was human-designed, but no one on Nesprum understood how to repair it. They had relied on human technicians for maintenance. Administrator Kolseth sent an emergency message to Earth. It bounced back undelivered. He sent messages to the human colonies. They replied with a simple statement: "We are no longer part of the council. We have our own people to feed." Kolseth watched his planet's food production drop by 30% in 2 weeks. By next month, his people would be hungry. By the following month, they would starve. The emergency council session was chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. The chamber that once felt so organized now resembled a marketplace brawl. "This is humanity's fault," screamed the Vextar delegate. "They abandoned their responsibilities." "We forced them out," countered a younger Vioranan representative named Caspel. "We made demands we knew they could not accept. We treated them like servants and now we act surprised when they left." The chairman pounded for order. "Humanity will return. They need us more than we need them." Caspel stood, her voice cutting through the noise. "Do they? Look at the reports. Human colonies are thriving. Their economy is stable. Their defenses are strong. Meanwhile, our medical systems are failing. Our trade routes are collapsing. Pirates raid with impunity. Tell me, Chairman, who needs whom?" Silence fell over the chamber. No one could argue with the truth. "We became dependent," Caspel continued quietly, "on a species we treated as inferior. We took their gifts and gave them nothing but contempt in return. Now we are reaping what we sowed." That night, 17 species sent secret messages to Earth. They offered independent trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and apologies for their silence in the Council. They promised to break from the Council if Earth would accept them as allies. Earth's response was polite but firm: "We will consider each proposal individually. But understand, we will never again sacrifice our dignity for anyone's convenience." On Earth, President Nam Hyen watched the intelligence reports. The Council was fracturing. Some species wanted reconciliation. Others doubled down on their pride. But all of them were suffering without humanity's support. "Should we help them?" asked her advisor, Officer Kong Miho. President Nam looked out at the stars. "We will help any species that asks with respect. But we will never again bow to those who mistake our kindness for weakness." The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Humanity had been the foundation holding everything together. Now that foundation was gone and the cracks were spreading fast. 6 months had passed since Earth left the Council. On the orbital construction yards above Mars, engineer Han Jisoo watched as the new ships took shape. These vessels looked different from anything humanity had built before. "They are beautiful," whispered her assistant. Jisoo smiled. "They are free." For decades, the Council had imposed rules on human ship design. No weapons too powerful. No engines too fast. No armor too strong. The Council called it maintaining balance. Humanity called it chains. Now those chains were broken. The new ships were sleeker, faster, and carried weapons that made the old models look like toys. Human engineers had been holding back their best ideas for years. Now creativity flowed without limits. "How many are ready?" asked Admiral Choi Yuna, inspecting the construction. 50 completed. 200 more in production, Jisoo replied. "We will have 500 new ships within 6 months. Yuna nodded. Earth was not just surviving without the Council. It was thriving. On the colony world of New Busan, alarms screamed across the settlement. Captain Rose Senna ran to the command center, her heart pounding. "Report," she shouted. "Pirates, Captain. 20 ships incoming. They are demanding we surrender all supplies and technology." Senna looked at her defensive fleet. 3 ships. Just 3 ships against 20. Before the withdrawal, she would have called for council support. Now there was no council to call. There was only her crew and her guns. Battle stations, she ordered. We do not surrender. Not to pirates. Not to anyone. Her officers looked nervous. The odds were terrible. Captain, said Lieutenant Park Dae-hoon quietly. We cannot win this fight. Senna smiled coldly. The council always told us to fight fair. To show restraint. To consider diplomatic solutions first. She activated the weapons systems. The council is not here anymore. The human ships moved in patterns the pirates had never seen. They did not form defensive lines like council vessels. They attacked like predators, fast and ruthless. Senna used every tactic the council had called too aggressive. She targeted enemy engines first, crippling their movement. She used the moon's gravity to slingshot her ships at impossible angles. She broadcast false signals to confuse their sensors. Within 30 minutes, 8 pirate ships were destroyed. 7 more were crippled and drifting. The remaining 5 fled at maximum speed. Not a single human ship was lost. Senna sat back in her chair, breathing hard. Around her, the crew stared in shock at what they had accomplished. Send a message on all frequencies, Senna said. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that human colonies are no longer easy targets. The message spread across the galaxy within days. Pirates who had thought human colonies were defenseless now knew the truth. Humanity unbound was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. On Earth, President Nam Hyen met with her council of advisors. The economic reports were clear. Earth's economy had grown by 12% since the withdrawal. New trade agreements with independent species brought wealth and resources. Human colonies expanded faster than ever before. The council believed we needed them, said Economic Minister Song Yoonji. They were wrong. We are stronger alone than we ever were under their restrictions. Not alone, corrected Minister of Defense Kwon Ji-ho. 43 species have left the council to trade with us directly. They see what we have built. They want the same freedom. President Nam looked at the star charts. Red markers showed council territory shrinking. Blue markers showed human-aligned space growing. The balance of power was shifting. The council is dying, observed Foreign Minister Yoon Hana. What should we do when they finally collapse? Nam considered carefully. We help any who ask respectfully. But we never forget how they treated us. Trust must be earned twice when it has been broken once. In the council chambers, the chairman watched similar reports. Over 200 species had broken away to form independent agreements with humanity. The economy was in freefall. Military protection was nearly non-existent. Send another delegation to Earth, he ordered. Offer them anything. Just bring them back. But deep down he knew the truth. Humanity was not coming back. The galaxy had changed forever, and the council had only itself to blame. 14 months had passed since humanity walked away. The council chamber looked empty now. Over 300 species had left to form independent alliances. The once proud organization was crumbling from within. The chairman stood before the remaining delegates, his gray skin looking darker with stress. The Krell Imperium has taken another 6 systems. They are not stopping. Murmurs of fear spread through the room. The Krell were an aggressive empire that had been quiet for decades. The only thing that kept them peaceful was fear of human military power. Now that humans were gone, the Krell were expanding again. We need to act, said the Vextar representative. Send our fleets to stop them. What fleets? Snapped Ambassador Caspel of the VONN. Half our military left with the species who abandoned this council. The other half cannot fight the Krell. Only the humans ever could. The truth hung heavy in the air. For 40 years, humanity had been the council's shield. They had been the force that kept empires like the Krell in check. Without them, the council was defenseless. Then we bring the humans back, the chairman declared. Prepare a diplomatic mission to Earth. We will make them an offer they cannot refuse. 3 days later, a council delegation arrived at Earth. They were led by Ambassador Torvan, a senior diplomat with decades of experience. He had negotiated treaties with hundreds of species. He believed he could convince the humans to return. He was wrong. President Nam Hyen received them in the Seoul Unity Plaza. She did not offer them seats in the presidential building. She met them outside in public where news cameras could record everything. Madam President, Torvan began smoothly, the galaxy needs humanity. The council needs you. We have come to discuss your return. Nam's expression did not change. We did not leave the galaxy, Ambassador. We left the council. There is a difference. Semantics, Torvan waved his hand dismissively. The point remains. Chaos spreads across civilized space. The Krell Imperium expands. Trade routes collapse. Medical systems fail. This is partly your responsibility. Beside Nam, Defense Minister Quan Jiho tensed. The insult was clear. Blame humanity for the council's failures. Nam smiled, but her eyes were ice. Let me understand. For 40 years we gave you everything. Our medicine. Our protection. Our technology. Our blood. You responded by trying to disarm us and strip our rights. When we left, you called us traitors. Now you come here and tell us we are responsible for your problems? Torvan shifted uncomfortably. The past is the past. We must think of the future. The Council is prepared to offer humanity a junior partnership position. You will have limited voting rights and can maintain 70% of your military fleet. In exchange, you will help us fight the Krell. The silence that followed was deadly. A junior partnership, Nam repeated slowly. After everything we contributed, you offer us a lesser position than we had before? And we must fight your war in exchange. It is a generous offer, Torvan insisted. Nam stood. The meeting was over. Ambassador Torvan, you can return to the Council with this message. Earth owes you nothing. We fulfilled every obligation we ever had. You terminated our membership, remember? You demanded we leave. We left. There are no responsibilities remaining. But the Krell? Are your problem, Nam said firmly. However, Earth is not cruel. We will provide humanitarian aid to any civilian population suffering from this conflict. Medical supplies, food, shelter. This aid comes with no strings attached and no political conditions. We help because it is right, not because you demand it. Torvan's face darkened with anger. You would let entire civilizations fall? This is not the humanity we knew. No, agreed Foreign Minister Yoon Hana, stepping forward. The humanity you knew was willing to be exploited. We have learned better. We will help those who ask with respect. We will ignore those who demand with arrogance. The delegation left Earth with nothing. As their ship departed, Torvan sent his report back to the Council. Humanity will not return under any circumstances. They are stronger than before and have no need of us. Recommend immediate strategy revision. In the Council chamber, when the chairman read the report, he finally understood. Humanity was not coming to save them. The species they had taken for granted was gone forever. That night, the younger Council members called for the chairman's resignation. The schism between old leadership and new thinking had become a canyon. Some species wanted to apologize and rebuild relationships with humanity. Others wanted to maintain pride even as their civilization collapsed. The vote was close, but the chairman survived. However, his power was broken. The Council was eating itself from within, and everyone knew it. 3 years had passed since Earth severed ties with the Council. The old organization no longer existed. It had collapsed 6 months ago when the remaining species could not agree on anything. Some blamed humanity. Others blamed their own leadership. Most simply moved on. Captain Rose Senna stood on the bridge of her ship, now part of a much larger fleet. Around her floated vessels from 400 different species. They had come together to form something new, the Free Worlds Alliance. All ships report ready, said Lieutenant Park Dae-hoon. Senna nodded. Today they would face their greatest test. The Krell Imperium had been expanding for 3 years, swallowing worlds that once belonged to the Council. They had grown bold, believing the galaxy was weak. Now they had made a fatal mistake. They had invaded human space. The Krell fleet was massive. Over 800 warships, the largest military force they had ever assembled. They expected an easy victory. After all, humanity was isolated, cut off from galactic support. They were wrong on both counts. Admiral Choi Yuna commanded the human defense fleet from her flagship. Beside her floated ships from the Vieronin, the Pelgash and dozens of other species. These were not Council members forced to cooperate. These were allies who chose to stand together. The Krell are hailing us, reported Communications Officer Lee Minji. They demand our immediate surrender. Yuna smiled. Tell them we have a counteroffer. They can leave now or they can learn why the old Council feared humanity. The Krell commander laughed at the message. 800 ships against 300. The numbers were clear. What the Krell did not understand was that human ships were no longer built to Council regulations. They were faster, stronger, and carried weapons the Council had banned as too dangerous. More importantly, humanity was no longer fighting with restraint. The battle began at dawn. Human ships moved like sharks through water, fast and lethal. They did not form defensive lines. They attacked from every angle, using tactics that would have horrified the old council. They were aggressive, ruthless, and terrifyingly effective. The Krell had superior numbers, but humanity had superior everything else. Human weapons tore through Krell shields like paper. Human engines allowed impossible maneuvers. Human tactics turned the Krell's size advantage into a weakness as their own ships blocked each other's firing lanes. Captain Senna led a squadron of fighters into the heart of the Krell formation. Her ships were small but incredibly fast. They targeted the Krell command vessels, striking at the leadership. "For New Busan," she shouted as her weapons fired. Within 2 hours, the Krell had lost 300 ships. Within 4 hours, their formation had collapsed into chaos. Within 6 hours, their commander was sending desperate retreat signals. But humanity was not finished. "No survivors," Yuna ordered coldly. "They came to conquer. They will leave as a lesson." The Allied fleet pursued the fleeing Krell across 2 systems. By the time the battle ended, fewer than 50 Krell ships escaped. It was the most decisive military defeat in galactic history. 3 days later, the Krell Imperium sent a formal surrender message. They agreed to return all conquered territory and pay reparations. They also agreed to never again threaten human or allied space. The message that spread across the galaxy was clear: humanity unbound was unstoppable. On Earth, President Nam Hyen hosted a historic summit. Representatives from over 400 species gathered in Seoul. They came to build something better than the Council. "We will not repeat the mistakes of the past," Nam announced to the assembly. "This new alliance will be built on equality. Every species, large or small, will have an equal voice. No one will be forced to join. No one will be punished for leaving. We cooperate because we choose to, not because we must." Ambassador Caspel of the VRNN stood to speak. She had been one of the few voices that defended humanity in the old council. 3 years ago, I watched humanity walk away from the council. I was ashamed of my people for staying silent. Today I am proud to stand with humanity as equals. The old council treated you as servants. This new alliance treats you as partners. That is the difference between failure and success. The vote was unanimous. The Commonwealth of Free Stars was born. The old council members who had refused to change watched from their dying worlds. They had clung to pride while their civilization crumbled. Some sent late apologies to Earth. Others remained bitter until the end. President Nam read each message personally. The apology she accepted with grace. The bitter complaints she ignored. Humanity had moved forward. Those who could not follow were left behind. Engineer Han Jisoo worked in her lab on Mars, developing new technologies. Beside her worked scientists from 20 different species. They shared ideas freely without council restrictions holding them back. Innovation exploded across Alliance space. Dr. Kim Saman, now elderly, trained a new generation of medical researchers. They came from every corner of the galaxy to learn from her. She taught them not just medicine but the philosophy behind it. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. On the colony of New Busan, Captain Rose Senna retired from military service. She opened a school where she taught young officers from across the Alliance. Her first lesson was always the same: strength without honor is tyranny. Honor without strength is weakness. Balance both and you will never lose your way. The galaxy had changed. The old order was gone. In its place stood something built on mutual respect, voluntary cooperation, and the hard lesson that taking people for granted always leads to ruin. Humanity had not sought to rule the galaxy. They had simply refused to be ruled unfairly. In doing so, they had shown others what freedom truly meant. The Commonwealth of Free Stars grew stronger each year. New species joined not because they were forced but because they saw something worth joining. They saw a future where everyone could thrive. And at the center of it all was Earth, the world that had the courage to walk away and the wisdom to show others a better path. The end.